We're moving now into the world of physical health. You are what you eat, we are often told. And I'm delighted to welcome Matt Locke and Gavin Eivers, who have been working in the health, fitness and wellbeing industry for 14 years and 17 years, respectively. Matt has been a professional football player, a coach, personal trainer and wellbeing consultant. Gavin has been working as a personal trainer, nutritionist, Pilates teacher, corrective exercise specialist. The past 7 years of his 17-year career have predominantly been spent preparing Hollywood actors for upcoming movies and helping business executives perform better in all areas of their life. Gavin and Matt's abundant experience and skill set complement each other, while their holistic approach to well-being, health, happiness, and mental performance is wonderfully suited to improving the health and happiness of employees, which in turn improves the health and performance of an organization. So this session is going to offer some practical guide to the power of food, its influence on performance and happiness. Matt and Gavin will explore the notion, you are what you eat, to find out if there's any truth behind the saying. Learn what you can do to influence how you look, feel, think, behave, and perform. A real warm welcome to Gavin and Matt.
Hi guys, so we're here today to talk to you about nutrition and specifically you are what you eat. The way that we're going to set up the conversation is I'm going to ask our resident expert Gavin Eivers a few questions and we'll just go from there. We're going to keep it informal. We're hopefully going to give you some knowledge and information that's not only going to help you understand nutrition better but actionable topics as well. So stuff you can take away and stuff you can implement straight off the back of this. So, Gav, you obviously came up with the title, You Are What You Eat. Why is that, mate?
It's an old saying, and I like it. It's been around since, I think, 1942. An American nutritionist coined it. And so it's been in kind of popular language since then. And recent science advancements is kind of shown that it's actually very accurate and profound. So you are what you eat. We're going to be talking about, I guess, the kind of building blocks of what makes us. And yeah, it's a catchy title and it makes a lot of sense.
Perfect. Okay, so breaking it down, I hope most people will be aware of the macros and micronutrients, but do you just want to add a bit of context to that?
It basically just means big and small nutrients, macro and micronutrients. So we've probably heard of those, watching your micros and watching your macros, and people talking about that in diet terms on Instagram or whatever it might be. But the micronutrients are essentially the vitamins and minerals, and then these are really important to help us function. They help everything function. So the vitamins, your A's, your C, B6, B12, vast array of vitamins, and they help all the systems in your body work properly. If we have deficiencies, things don't work very well. We end up we can get sick, we can perform suboptimally, all kinds of issues. The minerals, again, really, really important. They help everything work. So things like magnesium and zinc, super important. I should say as well, most of these, all of these, you can get adequate enough amounts in your diet, so there's no need for supplements. But if you are deficient in something, if your doctor has told you that you're deficient, you don't want to just assume, you don't want to guess. And there are some kind of telltale signs, if you're feeling fatigued a lot of the time, you might want to look at your vitamin D. But basically, we're going to talk about kind of, as we're talking about you are what you eat, this is exactly what it's about. You are the vitamins and minerals because they help you function, they help you think, they help you your immune system work properly.
Okay, so you talk about kind of the telltale signs. You mentioned fatigue. Is there anything else people should be aware of? Because I'm sure we've all experienced at the moment, maybe especially working from home, working hours that you potentially wouldn't work if you were clocking in and out of an office. So is there stuff that people should be aware of? Because I imagine quite a lot of people are fatigued at the moment, emotionally, physically, mentally. Yeah,
it's a tough one, isn't it? Because you don't want to get confused. It might just be that you've been in front of your computer screen. That doesn't necessarily mean that you've got a deficiency in any vitamin or mineral. So, it's important. The key is to develop the skill of listening to your body. So you know. So, if your diet's been rubbish and you're feeling fatigued, maybe it is because of the diet, maybe it's not the Zoom. So it's just being aware of your environment, what you're doing, what you're consuming in terms of food, your exercise. And it's hard to talk about well-being and only talk about nutrition, because you've got to kind of look at everything else, your movement, your activity, and your recovery as well. But yeah, just the key is really just focus on your diet. Make sure that you've got a decent amount of vegetables, and you should cover all bases.
Okay, so one point we've got in there, and I hope that we go off on a tangent at times, because I feel if we stick to the slides, we're probably not doing our job, and I know we're quite creative people, but you highlight fat on the slide. There's a myth with fat. I mean, I talk to people about fat, good fats, bad fats, people's perception of fat. Touch on that for a moment.
Yeah, definitely. I think for a long time we've had it drummed into us by probably cereal companies that carbohydrates are essential and we should have them first thing in the morning. But fat is really essential. I mean, it's the prime energy source of our brains and our hearts. Our brain is actually made mainly of fat. But there's different types of fat. Your rubbish processed foods, which are going to contain that junk fat. You want to kind of keep away from that. But good fats from, avocados, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, if you're going to be specific. These are essential for all the processes in your body. They help your neurotransmitters, so they kind of help your brain function. They help create the links from different parts of your body, from your muscles to your brain, so they help your body communicate. So really, really essential. Don't be afraid of fats. They are essential. They're called essential for a reason. But yeah, just get them from food, from decent food. So, like I say, like your avocado, but also your fish is an amazing source of good fat, healthy fat. And we've all heard of omega-3s and 6s and stuff. And it's really important to get a good balance as well. So you're getting your nuts, your seeds, your fish, your avocado, your oils.
Right, cool. And the cliche of a trendy bloke with a beard talking about avocados.
Yeah, right.
And then also, look, carbohydrates, another one, got to touch on that. The old no carbs before marbs. Go on, mate.
Yeah, don't be scared of carbs. Don't be scared of carbs. I have a little saying, you've got to earn your carbs. So if you're not doing much, you don't really need carbs as much. I mean, and if you're prioritizing your vegetables to get your vitamins and minerals, you're going to get a decent amount of carbohydrates within that. Protein, on the other hand, is a non-negotiable. We need that. We need about 1.5 grams per kilo of body weight. So that's your kind of target. Okay. Then fat, you want a decent amount of fat. You're not going to really overeat. If people are eating well, they're not going to overeat on protein and fat, because it fills you up. It makes you feel full. Right. Carbohydrates, on your hand, is very different. The foods that we buy in supermarkets, there's millions of pounds of research spent on those foods to make us want them more. So, for example, you buy a jacket potato, it doesn't taste that great. You add a bit of butter and salt, it tastes wonderful. And a lot of these products you're buying in packages in the supermarket, they've just kind of tapped into that theory there, and they've just laced it with the fat and the sugar or the salt or whatever it might be to make it a bit more satiating. But basically, carbohydrates, earn your carbs. If you're going out running, you're fairly active, then up your carbs. If you're not doing anything, lower your carbs, and you're going to get loads from your vegetables anyway.
Cool. So probably shop local is a little point to add then. Do you want to plug the local Whole Foods market through now, mate? And they can send us some money.
Well, just on that note, if you've got to read the nutrition label, the ingredients, you're losing already. Right, Real food doesn't have ingredients; it's just food, right? Yeah, so if you're going into places and you're going, oh, that looks all right and that looks all right, just put it down. You shouldn't really have to. I mean, when you might be interested in the fat, carbohydrate quantities or sodium quantities, but if there's an ingredients list, it's probably someone's fabricated that in a factory somewhere.
Yeah, good point. Okay, so I mean, the point about what you're trying to do, okay, maintain, exercise. Do you want to build on that a bit more?
What with the?
Yeah, so I mean, if we're looking at kind of stable weight, if we're looking at losing weight, I mean, what would you say would be the kind of the clear but also sustainable takeaways for people? Yeah,
so you don't want to fluctuate too much. Okay. So again, it's all about consistency, and this goes to exercise and sleep. It's all about consistency, doing it well all the time. Yeah. There's a couple of things you can look at. The body mass index is kind of dated. It doesn't really work for most of the people. Well, for a lot of people, it's not very accurate. But there's little things like your waist times twice, you times it by 2, and that should be less than your height. So that's a really easy way of just making sure that you're kind of within the healthy guidelines. There's easy things like that, and that's what we're trying to do with You Are What You Eat. It's just keeping things simple. No need to overcomplicate it, because, again, coming back to that listening to your body thing I was talking about, if you build the skill and develop the skill to listen to your body and understand what's going on, and if you haven't had enough sleep or your food hasn't been great and you feel bad, note that in your head and do something about it that day or the next day. And that's the key, really. Don't overcomplicate it.
And I'll probably go one step further to say that we can actually note that down, and you can then build a picture, can't you?
Absolutely.
So kind of a well-being timeline. If you're recognising, actually, every Monday I'm fatigued into Tuesday morning, well, it might be something you're doing at the weekend, or it could be something that just recurrent with your lifestyle.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, nutrition diaries are incredible. Just seeing it just seeing what you're eating on paper, and it's usually little snacks, the things that 2 Jaffa cakes in the afternoon, 2 Jaffa cakes in the afternoon every day is 14 Jaffa cakes over a week. That's a packet that you didn't even think about, but until you've seen it written down, you don't really notice it. So it's a really good tool. It's really insightful for yourself or your nutritionist or your dietitian or whoever you're working with, or like I say, just seeing it. It's a bit of an eye-opener.
And I suppose people's routines, I think they probably have established new routines now as we're 6-7 months into this whole new working culture. So have you got any tips for people that might have established some potentially harmful habits around their nutrition?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, adjust accordingly. Again, it comes back to being aware of yourself. If you're not burning as many calories, I mean, you're not walking from the tube to the office, or you're not even walking from one meeting to another. Your general calorie outlay throughout the day is going to be much less, generally speaking, if you're stuck at your kitchen desk, or your kitchen table. So adjust accordingly. Again, going back to the carb thing, you earn your carbs. So stuffing your face full of carbs, it will give you an insulin spike. It will give you an energy boost, but you don't need them really. So aim for much more kind of slower releasing, sustainable energy sources, which again is kind of, fat, protein. That's going to be much better for you.
You talked about, we discussed these topics a lot, but you talked about NEAT. Do you just want to elaborate on what NEAT is and why we should be aware of it?
Yeah, NEAT is just basically moving. So it's non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So it's basically the act of burning calories throughout the day from basic things like I say, from walking from the bus stop to the office or anything like that.
Taking the stairs rather than the escalator, which I did on the way here.
Exactly. I mean, you had a great one the other day with your home setup, your standing desk setup, which is just a chair and a table, and there's nothing, no expense there. But even just the act of standing up is great for your musculoskeletal health, because it's going to open up those hips and the shoulders. But you're also going to burn a few more calories if you're standing up. You might just walk over there, and you might just walk over there. It's not far, but it all adds up throughout the day. Whereas if you're just sitting down at your desk, you're probably not going to move. You might get up for a coffee every couple of hours, but that's about it.
Yeah. Okay, so it's kind of assessing everything yet again. That holistic approach is essential.
Exactly.
You can't just do nutrition on
its own. It's just having that, being able to assess yourself.
Okay, mate. So gut health. What's gut health?
Well, gut health is everything, really. It really is. I mean, that's a big statement. But again, the research coming out at the moment is fascinating. It really is. I mean, the relationship between your gut and your brain, but also your gut, brain and heart, it's intrinsically linked. And, there's a thing, an emerging science at the moment called nutrition psychology. And it's fascinating because it's how the gut can affect mental health, and I'm not just talking about make you feel a bit better. I'm talking about actual mental health, so serious stuff. And there's a lot of functional medicine going down that route, rather than prescribing serotonin-enhancing medication. They think, well, we know that about 70 or 80% of serotonin is produced in the gut. Why don't we just try and fix that? And it's fascinating because, again, going back to what I was saying, it's simple. I say it's simple. It's veg. It's making sure that you're eating right. I could go on about environmental toxins and how that affects it, but I won't here. I just want to stick to easy, actionable.
Stuff that I can understand.
Exactly, and stuff you can do right now. That's what I want people to get out of this. They can just go away and then just, do an online shop, go to the supermarket, buy a wide variety of veg, and then that's going to help your gut. Things like GABA, which is a neurotransmitter, it helps you feel calm. So if you're quite anxious, providing the correct environment to produce GABA, and when I say the correct environment, I just mean eat well. That's all I'm saying. Keep away from the junk, not too much alcohol, not too much chocolate and fat and rubbish sugar and all that kind of stuff. Serotonin, again, it's going to make you feel good. There's so many neurotransmitters that will benefit because they have to flourish in a healthy gut.
Okay, so when we're talking, if we're talking about a healthy gut, I know there's the 101 processed milks that we can drink. Would you say that's a good option for people, or would you say stick to the simple stuff?
I'd say stick to the simple stuff, because the thing is, probiotics work when your gut is in reasonable shape. Do you know what I mean? So if you're on medication or something, then the gut might not be in great shape. So I would, then you might want to think about just populating it with this bacteria. But generally, it's going to come back to the vegetable stuff. Good fiber, loads of vitamins, loads of minerals. So you don't. That creates this kind of prebiotic environment, and then you can get the probiotics on top of that. Because a lot of these probiotic drinks, they don't. You can't absorb them. As soon as they hit the gut, they disperse or they die. So they're killed out, a lot of them. Not always, and there's definitely a time and place for them. But it's usually on the advice of a dietitian. The probiotics. A lot of it is you're just wasting your money, really.
Okay. We've obviously touched on you are what you eat, but within there you mentioned alcohol, I mentioned the probiotics. What about fluid, water? So simple.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. You need to be, you need to be able to self-assess. So like I mentioned with the carbohydrates, if you're not moving around that much, you don't need that much much carbohydrates. Right. With water, the more you exercise, you probably want to be aiming for at least a couple of litres a day. But the more you exercise, the more water you need. And it's as simple as that. It's easy to track though, right? You don't really need to write it down, you just get a bottle. And if you drunk it, then you know.
And I suppose something I've found is that I do drink a lot of water. I'm really conscious drinking a lot of water. Coming out of my kind of normal environment, which has been for the last 6 months today, although I've got a water bottle, it's pretty much stuck in my bag the whole way. And I probably have had a couple more coffees than I normally would have. So I've noticed feeling a bit more lethargic, and I get headaches if I'm not hydrated. But for people that don't drink enough water, it might feel like the norm. Oh, that's just the way I feel. So it is such a simple fix, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The power of well-being, it's incredible. You might be just feeling a little bit rubbish, a little bit under the weather. You might be getting a bit of a cold, quite regularly. And it's amazing. Your sleep might be off, and you're thinking, oh no, I'm going to have to book an appointment with a doctor. I'm going to need to take medication. Maybe just try the water. What's the worst that can happen? There's no negative side effects unless you're drinking gallons of it. Yeah. With the veg, same thing. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, brilliant, cool, mate. So if we're talking about kind of key takeaways, what if you were going to say, right, here's my top 3, top 4, 5 tips? What would they be?
So you mentioned the nutrition diary. So if you're kind of new to all of this, keep a nutrition diary. It's fascinating. You'll be surprised. I do it from every now and then, maybe twice a year. I'll do a week of keeping a nutrition diary, and I'm shocked by it. Sometimes I'm like, really, do I really eat that much mayo or whatever it might be? And it's the little details. Yeah. Don't forget the details. Right. Keep it simple. Sometimes the stress from not eating right or not exercising or not sleeping properly, the stress is worse than the actual poor nutrition. So it's all about the balance, really. Keep it simple, and just try and remember, you are what you eat. So if you're going to put junk in, don't expect your body to be forming optimally. And when I say your body, that's your brain included. Yeah. But you are what you eat. I think that's a really key thing to remember. So, just keep a variety of food, different colors, vegetables especially, different colors. So I sound like I'm kind of promoting veganism or vegetarianism. I'm not. I eat meat as much as anyone else, but I would always prioritize a big salad, because for me it's the best preventative medicine.
Okay.
Rather than waiting for me to feel rubbish or not perform properly, and then start to worry about it, just eat it, and try and avoid it. Especially where we are now, we're much more concerned about having a healthy immune system. You know, just, eat a bunch of stuff, keep it simple, don't stress about it.
Perfect. So that brings us to our close. Hopefully it wasn't too disengaging. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you need any more information, just please get in touch.